Hey guys, this is 8-5 video. Um, I'm going to throw a little bit 8-6 in here. It's 2015 and we're not necessarily using 8-6. This was Wild Week, it was crazy. But for the future, if we ever need these, it'll be here. So I'm going to minimize this. 8-5, we're going to have an 8-6, we're going to have some special products. Okay, first one being difference of squares. Now, first of all, your difference of squares will not work unless we have a subtraction. Difference meaning subtract. So if there's something other than a subtraction sign here, it's not going to be able to work. So if that's an n squared plus 24, these won't work. Now, if I have a negative here, and this is positive, I can just rearrange it, which we'll get to later. But the long and short of it is, okay, if we can identify that this is a special product, okay, let's break this down. We have n times n for n squared and 8 times 8 for 64. Okay? If we have my first term is something squared and my second term is something squared and I have a subtraction sign in the middle, we're able to jump to n plus 8, n minus 8, n 8, n 8, and 1 plus and 1 minus. My n's in front, 8 in back, 1 plus 1 minus. Okay, if we were to normally set this up like we would back in 8.3 or whatever, we're looking at n squared plus 0n minus 64. Okay, so my minus 64 would go on top and my 0 would go on bottom, which means my 8 and negative 8 have to cancel out to 0 and multiply to 64. Okay, so whenever we have something squared minus something squared, a plus b, a minus b, whatever the terms may be. Okay, so here I have 4m squared minus 81n squared. 4 is 2 times 2. M squared is m times m. So it's just 2m times 2m. That would get me 4m squared. And on back, 9 times 9, n times n. So I have 9n times 9n. So all I do is take 2m and 9n, put them both in parentheses. One gets a plus, one gets a minus. 2m plus 9, 2m minus 9. Okay. On this one here, 50a squared minus 72. Now 50 isn't something times itself to get 50. Neither is 72. So what you need to do is, first of all, we need to check and see, is there any other number that can kind of go into both of these? Well, 50 doesn't go into 72. They're both even numbers, but we can get to that a little bit quicker. So if you want to double check your square root button, whether you have to hit second x squared, take the square root of 50 and the square root of 72, and you get 5 square root of 2 and 6 square root of 2. If your roots match up, then you have a greatest common factor that can be pulled out. Okay, so in this case, we'll pull out a 2, leaving me with 25a squared minus 36. Now 25 is 5 times 5. A squared is a times a. So that's 5a times 5a. And 36 is 6 times 6. So all I have to do is write 5a plus 6, 5a minus 6, throw my 2 out in front still. So if you don't have a easy recognizable one, see if there's a 2 or a 4 or an 8 or something that can be taken out. Now this one here is one of those where we don't have a subtraction sign in the middle, but 1 is negative, so we're just gonna rearrange it. That's the same thing as writing like, and maybe I put it up here, negative 3 plus 4 and 4 minus 3. If you put them in the calculator, you're still going to get 1 for the answer. So as long as the negative goes with the negative and the positive goes with the positive, negative with negative, positive with positive, we can do that. Now, 2 doesn't have anything that multiplies to get it, so we have to take out that 2 as a greatest common factor. We're left with x squared minus 1. Now this is one that you'll see a lot. X squared is x times x. 1 is 1 times 1. So we have x plus 1, x minus 1, with that 2 left out in front. Okay. This one here, I hope I did it right. 8y squared minus 200. Okay. 8 goes into 200 25 times. So we are going to take out an 8 from both of these. 8 divided by 8 gives me 1, so the y squared stays. 200 divided by 8 gives me 25. 25 is a nice even number because that's 5 times 5. So I just have y plus 5, y minus 5, and my 8 comes out in front. So something squared, A plus B, A minus B. So y and 5, 1's plus, 1's minus. Be careful not to take out enough, okay? So like if you're like, oh, I'll just divide both these by 2 and have 4y squared minus 100, which would be 2y plus 10, 2y minus 10. It wouldn't completely factor all the way. You'd have to reduce those a little bit more. I think I wrote that on a later slide. But we have y times y and 5 times 5, so we get it. Okay, 4x to the third minus 100. Well, 4 and 100 have a greatest common factor of 4. This would be 2 times 2, and this would be 10 times 10. But because 4 and 10 have a common factor, we got to pull both those out. So now I'm left with x cubed minus 25x. Well, we don't have two things that multiply to an odd exponent, so we're also going to take out an x also, and we're going to be left with x squared minus 25. I have x times x and 5 times 5, so that turns into x plus 5, x minus 5, with the 4x left out in front. Whoops, let me go back for you. The 4x left out in front. 18y squared minus 72y to the fourth. Now, be careful and don't go, oh, they're both even. I'm just going to pull out a 2 because 18 actually goes into 72. So we're pulling out 18. That becomes 4y. Don't make it 9 and 36 and then not reduce it enough. Pull out the entire 18 if you can. Now I got y squared and y to the fourth. So I still have two y's in common. I'm going to take those out also. So y squared becomes 1 because y squared over y squared becomes 1. And then y to the fourth becomes y to the second. So I have 1 minus 4y squared. Now, even though my variable is not in front, we still treat it the same way. 1 is 1 times 1. 4 is 2 times 2, and that's y times y. So I have 2y times 2y. So it's just 1 plus 2y, 1 minus 2y, and my 18y squared stays out front. Okay. On this one here, 4x to the fourth plus 8x cubed minus 4x squared minus 8x. They all have a couple things in common. First of all, they have an x, okay? And they also have a 4 in common. 4, 8, 4, and 8. So now, we're basically going to divide all these by 4x. 4 over 4 is 1. 4 minus 1, x to the third. 8 over 4 is 2. 3 minus 1, x squared. Negative 4 over 4 is negative 1 with the x, and that just becomes negative 2. Now from here, I got 4 terms, and I don't have any more in common, but with 4 terms, you should be able to group factor. So this is 8-2 stuff. So from here, if you want to pause this and go back and watch the 8-2 video for the group factoring, but you look at this in front, x cubed and 2x squared, I have x squared in common, so x plus 2 left over. And I'm trying to get x plus 2 over here. Well, I have negative x minus 2. Well, if I get rid of, come on now, negative 1, negative becomes positive, and I have matching parentheses. So my 4x, my x plus 2, and then my leftovers, x squared minus 1, becomes my last one. But I'm not done, okay? Even though we've technically found them all, x squared minus 1 can be factored one more time, because that's x times x and 1 times 1. So something, a variable squared and a subtraction sign, be on the look at that. Wait till you get down to all the way to variable to the first power. So this just becomes, let me scroll down a little bit, x plus 1, x minus 1, and then everything else gets brought down. So 4x times x plus 2 times x plus 1 times x minus 1. If you factored it all, we'd be back to our original, or if you FOILed it all, we'd be back to our original equation. Okay. This is one we kind of did earlier, and I showed you if you do this and you only pull out a 2, 2y plus 10, 2y minus 10, both of these have a common factor of 2. So you have to pull out 2 times y plus 5, 2 times y minus 5. This 2, and this 2 become 8, and my y plus 5, y minus 5 stays. Okay. What happened here? Oh, I think I'm writing on top of myself. That's okay. Let me go to 8-6. 8-6 is another special case, a little bit easier. Perfect squares. Okay. A squared and B squared on back, but now we have plus signs and we got some middle term. If you don't have a middle term, it's not going to work. Got to try something else. Okay. Whatever our A value is and our B value, if you multiply them together and multiply that by 2, if that's the case, we'll have a perfect square. So A squared is A times A, 16 is 4 times 4. A times 4, which is 4A, times 2 gives me 8A. I can jump to say A plus 4, and then just rewrite it a little bit different. So if you see this, this is not distributing. This is A plus 4 times A plus 4, like written up here. On this one here, 4x squared is 2x and 2x. 9 is 3 times 3, but 4 times 3, or sorry, 2 times 3 would give me positive 6. So you got to remember that negative 3 and negative 3 also make 9. So 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x times 2, negative 12x. So 2x minus 3, 2x minus 3, written like that. A little bit different. We're not really going over it. Truthfully, you should be able to treat these just like normal, with 36 on top and negative 12 on bottom, and factor it the way we did in 8-4. But that is 8.5 and 8.6 for you guys. Excuse me. We'll be testing over it soon.